We are talking about absolute value equations, and we want to solve absolute value equations. And we want to just reminder of the steps that we need to follow in order to get that done. So the first step is get the absolute value by itself. So in this case, we have step number 1. That one is done already. This one's done because there are no operations outside of the absolute value. So step number 2, set the absolute value equation equal to the positive and negative version of the number. So we have positive 5. So we want to set it equal to the positive and negative version. And so we will say whatever's inside the absolute value, so negative 5a minus 10 is equal to 5. And then we have to also set it equal to the negative. So then it's going to be the exact same thing. Negative 5a minus 10 is equal to, the only thing that changes is we make this a negative 5. So that's step 2. So step 2 was we got rid of the absolute value, and then we changed our solution. One is equal to 5, the other one's equal to negative 5. Then we just have to go through and do the GEMDES again for step 3, where we go ahead and solve that. So step 3, we're going to have GEMDES. Kind of running out of room, but step 3, we're using GEMDES right here. So we're going to add 10 to all sides of the equal sign. And same thing, we can add 10 here and add 10 here. So our 10s cancel, we're left with negative 5a and equals 15. And then still working on GEMDES, we divide by negative 5. And then we get a is equal to negative 3. Then over here, we have add a 10. So our 10s cancel, we're left with negative 5a. And negative 5 plus 10 is positive 5. And divide by negative 5. And we get a is equal to negative 1. So those are our 2 possible solutions. And then we just have to write them in set notation. So we get the set of negative 3 and negative 1. Another example that we have, solving the absolute value equation. Step number 1, in this case, this one's not done. Here we have the addition sign outside of the absolute value. So the first thing we have to do is we have to use GEMDES. And in this case, we're using addition and subtraction, inverse operations. So we're going to subtract 8 from both sides of the equal sign. And then that's going to give us the absolute value of negative 4x is equal to 4. At this point, we have the absolute value by itself, so we got to move on to step number 2. And step number 2 is write it plus or minus. Let's write it out first. So we take what's inside the absolute value, which in this case is negative 4x, and we set that equal to the positive version, or the same version that was there earlier. And then the next, we take the same interior, which is negative 4x, and we set it equal to the negative version of that. And that was step number 2. Step number 2 is positive and negative version, right? Then we just have to go back to step number 3, which is basically step number 1 again, and that is GEMDES. And for this one, we have multiplication, so we're undoing multiplication by division again. So that's our inverse operation. So we can divide by negative 4, and then we get x is equal to negative 1. And over here, we divide by negative 4. And then we get x is equal to positive 1. So then we have, for our answer, we have this set of negative 1 and 1.